Let me tell you something that probably caught you by surprise just like it did me. The Dallas Cowboys have just signed Peyton Turner. Yeah, that Peyton Turner. First-round pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, selected 28th overall by the New Orleans Saints. A guy who once turned heads at the combine with his rare size and athleticism. And now, suddenly, he's wearing a Cowboys jersey. But before we dive deep into what this really means for our defense, let's take a step back for a second. Do you remember that back in 2021, there were rumors that the Cowboys actually had their eyes on Turner before the Saints took him off the board? It's true, Will McClay and his scouting department had already flagged his potential back then. And now, a few years later, Dallas finally gets their shot at him. Let's talk about what kind of player we're dealing with. Turner stands at 6 feet 6 inches, weighs around 270 pounds, and brings an insane wingspan to the field. He's the kind of physical specimen defensive coordinators dream about: long, strong, and explosive off the edge. When healthy, his first step can collapse pockets in a heartbeat. His frame alone allows him to disrupt throwing lanes and force offensive linemen into mistakes. And I know what you're thinking, if he's so physically gifted, why was he available now? That's exactly what we're going to dig into as this video progresses. But let's be real, this move is interesting. Because even if Turner hasn't hit his full potential yet, there's a feeling in the air that maybe, just maybe, Dallas is the place where it finally clicks for him. So now I'm throwing it to you, do you like this signing? Drop your answer in the comments, type Y if you're on board with it, or N if you think it's just another gamble. And stick with me, because in the next part we're going to talk about what this move really says about the Cowboys' strategy in 2025. You'll want to hear this. Alright, now that you've got the name Peyton Turner fresh in your head, let's talk about something that's becoming a real pattern in Dallas, and I'm sure you've noticed it too. This signing fits right into the Cowboys' 2025 offseason approach: low-cost contracts with high-upside players. Sound familiar? It should. This is what we've come to call the classic Will McClay special. And honestly, it's got fans split right down the middle. Let's look at the numbers. Turner signed for just $3 million on a one-year deal, with only $2 million guaranteed. That's pocket change in today's NFL, especially for a former first-rounder. But it also tells you something loud and clear: this is another gamble. A calculated one, yes, but still a gamble. And Turner isn't the only example. Think about other recent signings: running back Javonte Williams, defensive lineman Solomon Thomas, the same mold. Players who flashed potential in the past but haven't lived up to expectations yet. It's the Cowboys' way of saying, we'll take the risk, hope for the upside, and if it doesn't work out, hey, we didn't spend much. And look, I get the logic. Sometimes these moves pay off big. But at the same time, doesn't it feel like we've been seeing the same playbook for years now? Let me ask you straight, should the Cowboys start thinking bigger? Or is this the smart, sustainable way to build a championship-caliber roster? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Vote right now. 1. Keep betting on upside with cheap signings. 2. It's time to spend bigger and chase proven stars. I really want to know what you think. Because this strategy sets the tone not just for this season, but for how competitive we're going to be when it really matters, in January. And speaking of competition, next, we're going to dive into how Turner fits into the current depth chart and whether this move actually shifts anything on the field. You don't want to miss that. Alright, now let's get into what really matters: how Peyton Turner actually fits into this Cowboys defense. Because signing a former first-round pick is one thing, but how he's going to be used is a whole different story. Let's start by looking at the current depth chart. You've got Micah Parsons, no doubt, the cornerstone. Then there's Sam Williams, Dorrance Armstrong, and now Solomon Thomas joining the rotation. So where exactly does Turner slide in? That's the million-dollar question. Is he coming in to be the fourth edge rusher in the rotation? Or are the Cowboys eyeing him for a more hybrid role, maybe even kicking inside? On certain downs? Physically, he's got the tools to do either. At 6 feet 6 inches, 270 pounds with that insane wingspan, Turner has the size and length to set the edge or push the pocket from the interior in certain sub-packages. He's not just a one-dimensional speed rusher, he's got some versatility if the coaches can tap into it. But let's be honest, he's not jumping ahead of Micah or Armstrong right away. And Sam Williams still has the edge in terms of explosiveness and raw upside. So that leaves us wondering, is Turner really just insurance depth, or do the Cowboys see something more? And hey, don't forget Solomon Thomas. If Dan Quinn, well, now the new defensive coordinator, wants to get creative with his fronts, we could see Turner and Thomas rotating inside on passing downs while Parsons and Williams fly off the edges. That could actually be a nasty look if everyone stays healthy. But again, it all depends on Turner showing up ready and consistent. Because if he doesn't, he could be buried on the depth chart before midseason even hits. So here's a question for you. Who do you think will form the top 3 edge rush rotation in 2025? Drop your predictions in the comments, I'll be reading through them. Is it Parsons, Williams, Armstrong? Or does Turner sneak into that mix? And coming up next, we're going to take a deeper look at Turner's rocky career so far, because behind all this potential, there's also a concerning track record you can't ignore. Now, let's take a step back and be real for a second. Because while it's exciting to talk about Turner's upside and his freakish athletic traits, we've also got to look at the other side of the coin. And unfortunately, that side has a big red flag written all over it: injuries. Turner's career so far? It's been anything but stable. Since being drafted in the first round back in 2021, he's played in just 15 games across 3 seasons. That's not a typo, 15 games. He spent more time on the injury report than on the field. And sadly, this isn't something new. Even going back to his college days at Houston, injuries were already part of the conversation. We're talking knee problems, shoulder issues, hamstrings, the list just keeps growing. And that's why, despite all the talent, he's never been able to truly develop rhythm or consistency at the pro level. It's frustrating because every now and then, he flashes. You'll see a game or a snap where he completely overwhelms a tackle, and you think, man, this is what he could be. But those moments? They've been rare. And here's the hard truth: if the Cowboys couldn't get the best out of someone like Taco Charlton back in the day, what makes us think they'll succeed with Turner? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not rooting against the guy. I want him to succeed. But at some point, we've got to ask ourselves, how many of these maybe he'll finally break out players do we need on the roster? The Cowboys need reliable impact on defense, not another long shot. And let's be honest, you feel that too, right? As a fan, you're tired of waiting on potential. You want production. You want results. Enough of the if he stays healthy conversations. We've been down that road too many times. So let's bring this to you. Do you believe Peyton Turner still has untapped potential that Dallas can unlock? Or is he just another disappointment waiting to happen? Hit the comments and let's open that debate. Up next, we'll wrap everything together and look at the bigger picture: what else this defense still needs to truly compete in 2025. Alright, now that we've broken down the Peyton Turner signing from every angle, it's time to zoom out and ask the bigger question, is this really enough? Let's recap what the Cowboys have done so far on the defensive side this offseason. Peyton Turner, Solomon Thomas, Robert Jones, Javonte Williams, decent additions on paper. Solid depth pieces. But are these the kinds of moves that truly transform a defense? That's where the doubt starts to creep in. Because when you look at the roster right now, it's hard not to feel like there are still serious gaps to be filled. Who's your true starting edge opposite Micah Parsons? Can you really count on Turner or Sam Williams to take over that role full-time? And what about the interior? Solomon Thomas is versatile, sure, but are the Cowboys still missing that dominant nose tackle who can eat blocks and free up the linebackers? And here's the thing, my friend, if the front office is hoping that the draft will magically solve all of this, we've seen that movie before. It can help, no doubt, but if the plan is to rely only on low-cost gambles and rookies, then we might be setting ourselves up for another season of frustration. So I want to hear from you. Do you think the Cowboys' defense is truly ready for 2025? Or are we still one or two impact signings away from getting serious about a deep playoff run? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let's have this discussion. As a community of fans who care deeply about this team. And hey, if you've enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss a beat as we keep tracking every move the Cowboys make heading into the season. See you in the next video.